For me, theater is such a unique format and different from film or television is in its immediacy. It's in the moment. It's literally live. And there's that exchange, that energy, that give and take, because regardless of whatever theater piece you're doing, the audience is always another member of the cast, if you will, because there's that exchange of energy. And I've always been in love with the immediacy of it and that connection that is lacking, honestly, in the genre of film and television, which is why I think theater has been and will always be my first love, because of that electric connection that you have with an audience.
I think theater is the most interesting format because you're on the tight wire. That's it. I've done a lot of film and television, and I've done a lot of plays. Film and television, there's room for mistakes. There's redos, there's retakes, it's all. Theater is live, it's intimate, and you're out there. And you could be saved by falling off the wire, but you're on that wire, and that's the thrill of it. And I think that's the thrill of the audience, for the audience as well.
Yeah, I think the experience of theater and experiencing live performance is so unique for the actor and the audience because it's truly one of the few, if not the medium, in which we can have that real-time exchange of energy, exchange of thought, exchange of emotion. It's not like a film where you could rewatch the same exact thing over and over again, or a song that's recorded where you could listen to the same exact thing over and over again. If you were to go to the same Broadway show or a little underground thing happening here, like in DC, you would see the same show, but you would see a different show every single night. To me, theater, and one of the most beautiful things about theater is that it's mirroring of everyday life, or it's mirroring of life itself. And that includes its fleeting nature. It's here one moment, and then it's gone the next. And the moment that we just had will never exist again. It's the one chance we have to have this moment exactly how it is. And there's something really, really beautiful about that. And I think if we live our lives with that in mind, life becomes a lot more beautiful than perhaps we think it is on the normal day-to-day. I think theater is a powerful reminder of that. The fleeting nature, the beauty, and the fragility of life. And it's a place where we can all commune and gather to hear a story. And that's a tradition as old as time. Yeah, so I think that's a really beautiful thing.
What makes the theater experience unique and, for my money, eternal, is that it's the experience of an idea being transmitted from the minds of the players, the creative team, everybody, being transmitted into the minds of the audience. It's like telepathy. We have an idea that we want to confer by telling a story. And if we do our jobs properly, what we're thinking goes into the minds of the audience, and then they're thinking it too. And that's magic. And yes, you can get that from other media. You can get that from a film. You can get that, from a dance piece. But what makes theater so interesting and addictive is that it's happening in the moment. There's human beings sharing ideas. And that goes all the way back to prehistoric tribes dancing and telling stories with limited language about where to find the water buffalo that they need to bring down in order to feed everyone. That's ancient. And I'm just happy that we're still doing that today, and we probably will continue.
There's so much that is special about the theatrical experience compared to film and television. That idea of you're never going to get the same performance twice. As an actor, you get to explore different parts of the character every night, whereas film and TV, you do months and months of prep work, but that one performance, there's only one take that they're going to be using, and that's going to be memorialized. And with acting on the stage, you can explore something different every time. And for me, something that really resonated, that really just came to light this past year, I took a Shakespeare workshop in New York, and we were talking with Brian Cox from Succession about what does it mean to be an actor? Why are you an actor? And he pulled up some text from Hamlet just saying the job of an actor is to reflect society back onto itself, and hold up a mirror to a person and say, this is who you are, or this is a part of yourself that maybe you don't recognize yet. And the experience of being in the same space as our audience and seeing them look at themselves in the mirror in real time, it's incomparable. You can't get that with TV or with film. You can hear reactions and you can hear people share their story, which is just as important, but it is really an indescribable experience to be able to share that story and see those people receive it in real time.
Well, theater is magic in a way that live stage, and it's this conversation I've had with many people recently with AI replacing some of our jobs as actors, it will not be replaced, because live stage or live music it's like going to church. It's collaboration with the audience. It's a dialogue, and every night is different because the audience is different, because we are different on stage. So this it's a communion of spirit, of souls, and there's storytelling that is fed on both sides. It really is, and you feel that on stage. You really do. And that's why theater is my primary passion, acting wise. I love to feel that adrenaline, and I feel this presence that reverberates what I'm sending in a way.
There is nothing like the theater experience for the actor or the audience. Nothing like it. It's an energy. It is a shared space. Again, that word magic keeps coming back. It is a shared magical space. On stage, it feels so incredible to bring words to life, to bring people to life, good, bad, or otherwise. And it is such an equal love that the audience has for watching that, for being invested in that, invested in those people. I mean, I think that people are the most fascinating things on the planet. I think human behavior is incredibly strange and engaging, and I think that we love as audience to watch that and sit back and go, well, I wouldn't do that. You watch things through your lens, filter it through your own filter. And I think it's just such an incredible thing, from sitting in the audience to being on stage. I mean, the joy of playing some of the most horrific people in the world, finding there's humanity in everybody, finding those little nuggets. I mean, I'm excited. I want to perform right now.
I think the theater experience is unique and important because it's uniquely human in a way that actually transcends most of modern conventional entertainment. So we have only had movies for about 100 years. We've only had TV for about 60. We've only had phones for about 10 in the way that we're using them now to view like content. But we have had theater for thousands of years. And I'm not breaking the mold by saying that. I just think that it really speaks to something that is deeply human. I had the experience of putting my show on in February of 2020. I put my show on live at the very end of February. The world shut down on account of COVID within 2 weeks. And then in May of 2020, I did a completely digital performance. I performed in an empty theater into a camera to be broadcast to people's laptops and TVs around the country. I technically still did the same show. I said all the same words. I delivered everything more or less the exact same, but it could not have been a more different experience than having and feeling an audience there. I honestly think that if COVID did nothing but teach all of us how precious one another's company is, it is so precious to be in the presence of another human being, whether it be in person. I think now we have all learned to conduct ourselves, over Zoom. We're all fairly used to this at this point. And we're all much better at it than we were when the pandemic started. I cringe at how clumsily I handled like job interviews or, happy hour game nights over Zoom. But now I am so grateful for the opportunity to physically be with other people. And whether I'm watching a show, experiencing the tangible tension of like, this is live, this is happening right now. There's no editing, there's no cutting away. There's nothing is going to remove me from this experience. I am fully pulled in. And as a performer, that is such an enticing challenge to me of like the audience cannot click away and they cannot swipe. They cannot swipe to the next thing. It's just me. And I have to keep them engaged and interested. And that has maybe never been harder in history, but it's so satisfying as an audience member and as a performer when you're actually able to do it, I think. So that's a very roundabout way of answering that question. But I think live storytelling, it goes back to us being around campfires and in caves. It goes back to us communicating the deepest part of who we are. And I think there's something innately uncomfortable about it, but that discomfort is not bad. That discomfort is exciting. The reason I love solo theater goes back to my inspiration in getting into theater in the first place. So I will say that in regards to the subject of my show has a lot to do with my very conservative evangelical upbringing. I was raised incredibly fundamentalist Christian, and I'm happy to get into that more. But one thing that I did not realize about that upbringing until I was quite a bit older was that I had the benefit pretty much every single Sunday of watching somebody get on stage and perform some kind of show, whether they were delivering a story about their life, or they were delivering some kind of message that had a point, or they were trying to achieve some kind of objective. My dad was a missionary, so quite frequently his objective was to tell a story on stage that was so moving and so captivating, the audience felt compelled to donate money so that we could continue doing missions work. That's like a very formula-driven kind of marketed. It's almost like a marketing formula. But I was really fortunate to watch people do it with very sincere heart and conviction. It never really felt like it was put on. But as I got older, I realized how much of it really is a craft. So watching a pastor get on stage and just talk for 30 to 45 minutes, giving their life story. And I always remembered the funny ones. I remembered the dramatic ones. I remember the ones with jokes that were peppered through. I remembered when somebody told a crazy story about their childhood or told a wild story about a conversion experience. That really stuck with me in a way that the guy just reading from the Bible and telling me how to live my life, that never stuck with me. That never resonated. So in a way, I think as solo theater sometimes reminds me of that dynamic where you want to connect with an audience in a really honest way. Particularly the kind of solo theater I do is direct address. I don't use a fourth wall. Well, not yet. I haven't. But I speak directly to the audience because I'm influenced by live comedy. So in doing that, there is a challenge of needing to keep them connected. It's almost akin to having a conversation with them. They're just waiting a really, really long time to talk. And I have to make it very, very worth their time to sit and listen. But hopefully, if I've done my job right, when I'm done talking, they have plenty of responses. They have plenty of things to say back. So I can't really speak on behalf of solo theater where there is not a fourth wall, where you are in a conceptualized world and you are playing every single character and the audience is not there. In some respect, that feels absolutely terrifying to me because I would much rather address the audience-shaped elephant in the room. Because I've never done that, I don't know if that would be harder than doing a conventional play, but I can say that I did a conventional play in college one time. Well, I did Enemy of the People. It just occurred to me that was a very well-known play that plenty of people would have heard of. I did Enemy of the People, and I played the character of can't remember his name, but the character of the sea captain, who has all of like 7 lines, but he's on stage a lot. So I spent most of that show sitting and listening. I didn't really have to do a whole lot. I just had to believably sit there and listen. When you're the only one on stage, even if you are sitting and listening, you have to be doing something interesting enough to be compelling the audience through what you are doing. And it's all on you. There is no rest. There's no break. There's no going backstage to get a sip of water or collect yourself. You have to really, really be present and in the moment. And doing solo theater is more exhausting than anything I've ever done in a conventional show. But it's also a completely different experience whatsoever. And I think conventional theater, if I miss anything of conventional theater, it's the creative collaboration of there are times where you are genuinely sitting and listening to another character and having to be truly in that scene and be a different person. That is a unique challenge that I have not experienced in solo theater in the same way. There's so many different kinds of solo theater too. I mean, solo theater can either, well, there's versions where you are just playing every character. There is a fourth wall. You don't break the fourth wall. And you do have to be so convincingly good that the audience suspends their disbelief. It takes so much craft and skill to help the audience suspend their disbelief. As a direct address performer who, frequently in the show, I will address the audience and then I will go into a scene. So my show is written in vignettes. So I directly address the audience and then I go into a scene where I'm maybe having a conversation. Then I'm back out to the audience. So I'm giving the audience and myself these moments of reprieve. I'm giving both of us kind of like a break. And I think of it a little bit like when you're in a conversation with somebody right in front of you, you don't just stare at them unblinkingly. You kind of look away for a second. You consider your thought and then you come back and then you're considering this and, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm listening. That's really cool. Okay. So then you kind of are giving yourself and them mental moments to catch themselves. And I feel in really, really great non-fourth wall breaking theater, you are taking all of the weight off of the audience. They are not obligated to engage with you at all. You are trusting that they will, but that is inherently scary to me personally.
I think the theater experience is unique for actors and for the audience because no performance can be replicated. So both for the performer and the people observing the piece, you're never going to experience it like that again. And I don't know. I mean, I guess that also occurs in music, but to me, there's something that's so special about that you can't recreate it or replicate it exactly. As a playwright, how do I feel when I see my words performed on stage? So actually, this is a lot of the writing that I've done has been writing that's been for sketches or videos. So I've never seen my words performed out of someone else's mouth. So I can only answer the video element of it. But the first time I experienced it, it was for a web series that I made in New York called Singledom. That was inspired by my dating life, which was pretty grim in New York. And I remember seeing an actor friend of mine saying the words that I had written, and I was behind the camera and I was just jumping up and down. And it was just so exciting to see my words that I wrote in my tiny little apartment come to life and be interpreted in a completely different way.
The theater experience is unique for the audience and the actors because, I mean, honestly, the reason that there's nothing like it is because it's that emotional bond between live performance and live audience is something that, I mean, that's the basis upon which like church is built, right? There was a very funny tweet somebody did the other day, was like, I used to be so into worship music and then I realized I just really like live music, right? It's like, it's something that we as humans just are drawn to. And it fills up your heart and it makes you feel things in a way that I think that, I mean, watching something on TV or whatever is never going to quite do, because there's, you know, those sound waves are going straight from somebody's mouth to your ears. And that's something that's, I mean, it's a religious experience. Theater is my church because I think it's the thing that matters most to me. It's the thing that where you can talk about what really matters to you and tell stories. And that's what, you know, religion frequently is. At least it was when I was a kid, of like, here is a parable and the moral of it is something you can learn from. And that's what I write as well. It's like, here is a story about people getting along and talking about their feelings. And to me, that's when theater is at its best, is when it's trying to make the world a better place.
I see the theater experience as a co-created experience. It's like a feedback loop, right? So I am up there, yes, like I am on the stage, I am giving the performance that people have paid to see, and their feedback is what then like gives me more, like kind of moves me through the art, through the day, through the show. And then like I just feel like there's something that becomes so alive in that theater, in those moments, that's like so unique and can't be recreated. And even if I perform the show, the same exact lines, the same exact characters another day, it's going to be a different audience. So it's actually going to be a whole different experience for both the audience and myself. Sometimes when I perform, I learn more about my characters. Sometimes I learn more about my story. Sometimes I get to like learn about my own sense of humor and adaptation and intuition. Like, so there's just so many layers of exploration that I get to drop into when I'm on stage with the feedback of an audience. And it's this beautiful, it's a co-creation.
Why is a theater experience so unique, and why is it important for the actors and the audience? The theater experience is so unique because it's happening in the moment. You don't get a second chance. You don't get a second take. It's a symbiotic relationship between the actors, the writer and director, and the audience themselves. And your goal is to be able to connect with them and help them for that moment to break time and space. to break their ordinary world, to move into this liminal space where they forget where they are and they're so absorbed into this story that they've connected to this character and the characters in the play that enable them to relate on some level. And to be able to do that in the moment, in the present moment, where if an actor's doing his job well, if a company's doing a job well, they're so caught up in the story that it allows the audience to break that time and space continuum, and they're lost in the moment. They lose that sense of like, oh my gosh, I was here for like 3 hours. How did that happen? That's the way what happened when I was doing that Shakespeare show, or excuse me, when I watched that Shakespeare play with Mark Rylance. I had no idea what happened. I was so captivated by the story. I had no idea three hours had passed. These are the things that we try, and because it's these moments of incredible passion and emotion that is spent, we are transformed by these experiences. We are elevated by these experiences. One of the things that I really love about the theater is what the ancient Greeks had done. The Greeks were the ones that originated theater. They were the ones. Aeschylus brought somebody coming out of the Dionysian chorus, and somebody spoke, and that was the Big Bang of theater. Well, their idea was that theater was used to be able to achieve transformation and catharsis, that it allowed us to tap into these deeper parts of ourselves that we couldn't grieve, that we couldn't tap into in the ordinary world. And so we go to the theater, and it was considered a sacred precinct. This was a sacred place. It had two gods that were part of the priest that started the commencement of the proceedings of the festival. You had the theater of Dionysus, the priests of Dionysus, and the priests of Apollo. And so they would set the stage, and so you're walking into something where you are going to communalize your grieving. You are going to connect with one another. You are going to be able to watch what was going on stage that allowed you to purge and cleanse what was trapped inside of you. The unconscious emotions that had plagued and made you feel toxic. When you watched the tragedies that unfolded on the stage there, it evoked pity and fear, and you would grieve, and you would see the horror, and you would connect to what was going on, and you would become out of that transformed. And I think that idea is still relevant today. When you go to a great theater show, you are transformed by the experience. You walk out of that experience differently than you walked in. And you can't get that anywhere else. You might be able to get that in a good movie. Occasionally you'll get that where you watch a great movie and you'll come out of it differently. But most of our movies now is just really entertainment. But theater has this incredible power to transform and to heal, to make us better people, because it's in the moment. It's in that moment where you're compelled to be vulnerable, and you hopefully are allowing the audience to be vulnerable with you. So to me, the power of theater is incredible.
I think the theater experience is unique for actors in that with film, for every shot in the film, you're probably just playing, like one sentence of the narrative. Where with theater, you're playing the whole story all night, and especially like a lot of my earlier stuff was long monologues, half hour, 45-minute, 1 hour monologues, and you're not just the actor in the role. You're playing the voices of other roles. You're also the story. You're the scene. You're everything, and that always really inspired me because your writing has to be really good in order to hit that level to like an audience to have. So it's an actor can deliver that story, can deliver those characters, can deliver that humanity to an audience, and the audience will sit there raptly in attention, and you're not hearing shifting in seats in a lounge from the back of it. Usually when you're the playwright or the director, you're in the back seat, and once you see the audience start doing that, you're like, So, if you've gotten to that level, then I think for me anyway, I thought I really achieved something.
Oh my gosh, do I think theater is my church? I do. I'm a very spiritual person. I connect to a lot of different traditions. I look for things from the mystical, deeper truths of that. But as far as theater being my church, yes, because there's a performative quality that we're doing. And anytime you're going into a church, there is this performance that the priests or the pastors or the rabbis are doing. They're singing, they're chanting, they're praying, there's this sense of a performance. And so the actors are doing that on stage as well. There's a performance going on. And it's work done playfully. So you're connecting, you're playful on the stage, but you're really getting into a deep sense of communality, a sense of connection to what it means to be human on a deeper level. It connects us to the universality of our emotions and our feelings and how we get into certain circumstances. It helps us to broaden our mind, helps us to think about things differently, helps to evoke compassion. I think that's one of the biggest things in that theater offers is this sense of compassion for others. You put yourself in characters' shoes that you would never have thought about doing before. Playing a murderer or playing someone that is coming out of an incarceration, or someone who just lost their spouse, or who is suffering from some kind of disease. And it puts you have to shed off all of your judgments, all of your criticisms about this person, because if you're not living the truth of their life, you're not being able to communicate that to the audience. And the audience will pick up on that right away. The audience will pick up, if you're not living the truth of your character, they will pick up on that, and you'll lose them. You'll absolutely lose them. So you have to find in your character that sense of, what do you love about them? What do you care about them? What makes this character so important to you? So it opens your heart to compassion, which I think is at the core of any religion, is this sense of compassion for others, kindness to others, do to others as you would do to yourself. And so you feel this, and all of a sudden your judgments start to fall away. And in addition to that, there is this feeling you feel closer to each other after you do a show. You've journeyed together. You've experienced something unique and special with these actors, with the audience. There's something that you have shared in this moment that transcends time, that transcends everything. And then you're going back into your world with this transformation and this open-heartedness, this new awareness and compassion. And yes, so it's a religion. It is as good a religion as any out there, I think, when it's done well.
I think theater can really connect people. I mean, either it be like connect people within the production team, the actors, the designers, the managers, or connecting the team with the audience. I mean, we always meet new people in the theater, and maybe there will be chance to make friends with someone in the audience. And this chance of meeting new people, alive living people, that is just so different from any other forms of art.
The theater experience is unique because it's live, right? Like, you're sharing space with someone, you're sharing breath with the people on the stage. Even if an actor goes in fully memorized, having done the show hundreds of times, you still, right before you step on that stage, you don't know what's going to happen, and neither does the audience. And that kind of electricity, you just don't get in the same way when you watch a film. What you're getting when you watch a film is someone else's perfectionism, right? They get to edit it, they get to craft it, they get to pick what scenes. Even the timing between the lines can be perfectly crafted from behind the scenes. But with theater, it's different every single night. And I feel like more and more, even with the introduction of AI, with the pandemic, that notion of sharing breath with someone is so rare, and you can only find that in the theater.
For me, what I love about theater is that it does stand on its own at its best, in my opinion, when it's doing what no other medium can do, which is to create a living, breathing moment that is impossible to halt or to capture, really. Because it is happening as you are watching it, and I don't think anything else can replicate that, pretty much, because everything else is pre-planned, and you're like Lindsay said, you're watching exactly what they want you to see. In the theater, there's always that room for it is what the audience will perceive, and you don't know how they're going to react, and there is a magic to that. And I was a little bit jaded on theater for a while, and then Lindsay showed me Indecent, and it blew me away, and I remembered why I loved theater so much, because of that uncapturable moment that you are participating in. It's so beautiful and moving in a way that nothing else is.
I think musical theater is so unique. Well, this is one of many, many, many reasons, but this is just the one that surfaced, because music can express what words cannot on their own. And I had a great acting teacher once tell me that the songs are the subtext. It's what you can't say out loud, so you sing it. And I feel like music is universal, even if you don't have lyrics, depending on the melody and the structure and the tempo, it's universal. Like across all cultures, all languages, when a song is sad or when a song is happy or when a song is anxious. And that kind of communication just can't be, it's just not the same as just talking back and forth. And even plays that are translated, right? If you have a play translated from Spanish to English, something is lost in translation. But when you have a song, that I don't think as much is lost, because you have the music carrying that emotional reality to everybody who's listening.
And for me, what separates musicals is that, well, and this is more of a technical answer, because she'll answer with the artistic answer. For me, the technical thing is it builds in another layer of craft, of logic, of depth to the universe that you're in, and once again produces something that is unlike anything else. You are building in this very shared common experience. Everybody likes, I think most people like music, but I would say that most people have a form of music that they respond to. And so adding that in a very surreal way keeps it, when you're doing a play, I imagine, or a movie is like it, you're watching it and you're really supposed to suspend disbelief. With a play, okay, you're in this, what is on stage is probably not real, probably. And in musical theater, it's like we take that to an extreme, and the ability to do that well is so incredible. And I strive to do what the greats, even come close to what the greats have done in terms of creating that ridiculously impossible experience and making you totally buy into it. Not only buy into it, empathize with it, connect with it. That's an incredible thing.
Well, theater is not complete without either audience or the actors, which is why it's unique. A novel, you sit down by yourself and read, and you find those characterizations yourself based on whatever the author has written. But in the theater, it takes both that actor and the audience, as well as the writer, to complete the piece. And the piece is never the same. I read somewhere, and I can't remember who the playwright was that said this, but he said that writing a novel, you get to go back and meet your old friends, and when you read it, you get to go back to meet your old friends, and they're always the same person. In theater, you go to see your old friends, and they're constantly different. And so it doesn't matter what day you see it on, it's going to be a different, or what production, if it's the same production on different nights, it's going to be different. And well, that's life, isn't it? Everything's constantly changing. Nothing's ever the same. And to me, that's why I love sitting in a theater, and I can set shows 2 or 3 times and just love it because I can see the differences. And with actors, as a writer, you just can't do it without the actors. It doesn't matter how well I write, if I don't have really good actors, then it doesn't work. It's, once again, not complete.